Hi everyone, this is JarlXL and welcome to Channel Duello. In today's deck guide video, I'll be featuring monsters and vampires, which is really a fun archetype to play. And thanks to CDPR, vampires is playable. Vampires got a lot of buffs. Uh, my previous monsters video this season was Deathwish. I recorded a vampire video on my Turkish channel. You could look it up. This is a bit different from that version. I think it's more optimized for the meta. And is it strong? Yes, it is strong, but there are really unfavorable matchups right now. If you want to have some, you could go ahead and play this. But keep in mind that, in a different meta, this deck could be really good. So do not underestimate vampires. There are a lot of strong, cards to play here. A lot of point slam cards, but you need some units on the board. And that's the problem with the bleeding thing. I mean, if the opponent, doesn't play, a lot of units, who are you going to bleed? And your finishing card is Regis Reborn. So in order to get a lot of points from Regis, you basically need to bleed opponent's units like every turn. And if you do that, Regis Reborn will come into play like 20 power or something like that, or a 20 point slam with a single card. And you also, need to draw him, by the way, so that's given. But anyhow, I mean, even if this card isn't in your hand, it's gonna get all the boosts from bleeding. So, but he's gonna get one boost every turn. So you're not getting like every bleed. That would be just insane. So hopefully that's not the case. Fortunately, that's not the case. And the good thing about Regis is you get a heat wave with him if you wanna, delete the points. I mean, this guy is not gonna get reset because he just drains an enemy unit by 3. So if opponent more quarks it, I mean, only 3 points are gonna be shaved from his power. So his base power gets increased, so this doesn't turn into a green health unit. So that's the good thing about it. So the macro strategy with this deck is, I mean, try to win the first round and then bleed the opponent literally in the second round because you got really good long round cards, and then try to finish the first round, I mean final round, with a big finisher in Regis. You could maybe add a Protofletter or something like that to get even more points. But I mean, against some decks, this is not enough, especially against Syndicate. I mean, what are you going to do if the opponent just plays his Savola and, King of Beggars? That's more points than Regis. So that's the sad thing about it. Okay, so let's talk about the deck and how it works. Blood Scent ability is designed for vampires. You can't just play anything other than vampires if you're playing Blood Scent. So Blood Scent has 3 charges. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 3 turns. Once all charges are used up, you spawn an Ekimara, and that Ekimara is a 3 power unit. So there is also this additional 3 point. So it looks like a 12 point ability at most. But the bleeding do have some synergies with other cards. So it's more than 12 points, definitely. Okay, so as I said, Regis is your finisher card like Gord. But as I said, he can't be reset. And then what else do we have? I'm going to talk about some tech cards later. Let's talk about the other vampire related cards. Well, Crimson Curse is just amazing in this deck. You spawn Blood Moon and Enemy Row for 5 turns, and on top of that you spawn 2 Ekimaras in the opposite row, and they are vampires. So there are some cards that are that really like sitting in between vampires, and that card is Deathleaf Vander Eritane. I mean, you should always play Deathleaf between 2 vampires. If you do that, you spawn Blood Moon on an enemy row for 2 more turns. So if you have a Blood Moon, you could add 2 turns to that Blood Moon. And as you see, Deathleaf is a long, or I would say middle range card. He's not a short round card. Why? I mean, this is an engine. You damage an enemy unit with bleeding by 1 for every turn. And there's cooldown 1. But if there's not a unit with bleeding, he just sits there. He can't do anything. So you got to make sure that there's a bleeding unit. And there is this opportunity that you can do it sometimes. if you hit death blow with your, hit on a bleeding unit, so in other words, if there's a unit with 1 power and it has bleeding, that's gonna die next turn, you can just kill it and you spawn an Ekimara. So that's a 4-point play because Ekimaras are 3-point vampires. So the 6 power unit could give you like maybe 15 points of, 15 points or 10 provisions. He's not amazing, but he's pretty good in this deck. So there's no way any other deck could play that left here because, I mean, he's a vampire. Okay, so let's move on to the other cards. Karakan got some major buff. Karakan is completely changed. I mean, he had Thrive and so on, which are really not great with vampires, but now he is an engine and he can produce Ekimara. According to this math, he can produce Ekimaras for every 3 turns, but you can decrease the cooldown whenever bleeding is applied to an enemy unit, and it doesn't have to be just 1 per turn. I mean, if you bleed 3 times in a turn, I mean, this cooldown will go down by 3. So Karakan could put up a lot of Ekimaras on the board if you, play this unit right. And this card is great for starting the bleed. I mean, it's a proactive card. You put an Ekimara next to it. It's 9 for 8 as a starter card, but I mean, if this card stays alive, you're gonna see a lot of benefit from it. But do not expect big things in a short round from Karakan. On the other hand, Protoflare is more suited for a short round point slam. Because if there is a unit, you just play Protoflare, give an enemy unit bleeding 3, then boost self by amount of bleeding on that unit. So it's automatically a 10-point play for 9 provision. And this could be really great in short round. And if there's a flatter on the board, that's going to boost that card as well. And there's also the option of, you use your leader on a card, you give 3 leaders, and then you play your Protoflatter on that card. And all of a sudden, that unit has 6 bleeding. Oh, I mean, it probably is not going to take 6 turns, but this guy will boost himself by 6 if you do that. So I think that's really a powerful play. And yeah, I think it's pretty good. I mean, the bleeding could go through. I mean, if the bleeding goes through, yeah, that's going to be even better. But as I said, I mean, this is a really short round card. Great short round card. So save it for a shorter round. And then, what else? What vampires do we have? We have Gale. And Gale got a buff as well. The provision is now 6 instead of 7. Gale has some anti-synergy with some cards like Regis. Because if there is only single bleeding card, I mean, you're going to probably try to get the death blow and kill that. And if you kill the unit, this puts up by destroyed unit space power. And sometimes, I mean, you could bleed a unit with like 8 power up down to 3, and if it's still bleeding, you play Gale on it, and Gale all of a sudden becomes a 12. So 6 for 12 is just amazing. But this is the most opportunistic scenario, so don't expect things like that often. But I mean, there's a downside to it. As I said, I mean, if there's only 1 unit bleeding on the board, if you consume that, Regis will not get boost because there won't be any bleeding units left on the board. So keep that in mind when playing this card. But I think it's a really good value card for 6 provisions. Okay, so and then we have Wispa's Tribute. So what's the deal with this card? She's not a vampire, she's a relict, but she's an organic tutor. And the card you're probably going to want to tutor out is Crimson Curse, because Crimson Curse is such an integral part of this deck. It's really great for a long round again. And if you play this with Tribute, it's going to thin your deck by 1. So you're going to play additional card. And you can get it out of the way in a long round. And because this card is not going to be great in a short round, obvious reasons. So Whispers is basically your Crimson Curse tutor. But there are other organic cards like Spores. So playing Spores could be really nice here. You can all of a sudden tutor this out, you reset the power unit, although we're also playing Heatwave. So I think that's debatable. Maybe you could remove it and add another natural selection or a Feast of Blood. But I mean, there were games that I used both Spores and Heatwave, so I'm not complaining. But keep in mind that when you play these cards, Regis is not going to get any bleeding because you're just playing a card, a control card. So maybe in those turns you should just use your leader so that Regis keeps getting boost. So that's the thing that I don't like about using these cards. I really want to go all in with bleeding. Your Regis could get huge. But I mean, while doing that, maybe you could lose your card advantage or something like this. So that's why you need these additional control cards, scattered around the deck, like Heatwave. Again, so you don't have to play this, but I mean, Heatwave could find some really great value in some cases. And then there are also two more organic cards, Feast of Blood and Natural Selection. There could be some units with 4 power, really threatening engines, so you could just kill them. And Feast of Blood is basically for purifying defenders. And if you control a vampire, it also gives bleeding. So this is pretty good for a 4th provision cards. And but I mean, be careful, you don't want to purify an already bleeding unit. So that's why there's just one single copy of Feast of Blood. You don't need 2 of them. Okay, so let's talk about the hidden interaction in this deck, which is Operator. We see Operator in some mill decks, but in this deck, you want an additional flatter. So how does this work? Spawn and summon a base copy of a bronze unit from your hand to this row on each player's side. So first of all, you need to have a bronze unit. And that bronze unit should be flatter. You don't want any other units unless you have to. So Operator could be a brick in your hand, so you gotta be careful with mulligan. So what it does is you copy your flatter in your hand. You put a flatter, on opponent's side. But I mean, if the opponent is also playing vampire, so that could be really risky. So keep that in mind. It happened to me once. I mean, I put a flatter on his side, and he had another flatter in his hand. So all of a sudden, 2-1, beat me. Okay, so anyway, you put flatter on the board. You try to win that round, and in the next round, you could play your Incubus to get that flatter out of opponent's graveyard, and you put your own flatter. And again, you're going to have another round with 2 flatters on the board, but one of them is just getting the boost from bleeding. So I think that's a pretty good scenario. That's why we need 2 Incubus. Incubus could also spawn some bronze units like Arcane. Or if the opponent's unit is more advantageous for you, that could happen. Also, I mean, Necrorat could be spawned. Even Alp. They're all targets for Incubus, actually. But I mean, your primary target is definitely Flatter, because Flatter are just right now better than Oriana. Well, they are susceptible to reset and so on, but so is Oriana. And Oriana is 9 provision, Flatter is 6. Do you want to play Oriana in this deck? Maybe you could instead of Proto-Flatter, but I want to keep Proto-Flatter, as I said, for shorter rounds. Oriana is just great in a long round, let's say 2 to last cards. So you don't want to play her as a finisher because she's an engine. So anyhow, so there's this option. You could, remove Heatwave and add Oriana and, maybe remove a 4-point card and add a 6-point or something like that. You could make those adjustments. What about the rest of the bronze vampires? We got 2 Alps. Alps are, again, really good with flatters because you're going to give bleeding twice in different turns. That's why it's really valuable. You want to give bleeding every turn to flatter, and while doing that, Regis is getting the boosts. So those are nice interactions. So anyway, flatter is just really an important card in this deck. If unchecked, this could go up to 20 power or something like that. Because with each bleeding, for every turn, I mean, you're gonna get the boost once for every turn. So you gotta also be careful about I mean, you could have like 2 or 3 options, like maybe an Necrorat, an Alp, or your leader. So if you want to apply 3 bleeding, you should do it with Alp. I mean, if you do it with Gale, I mean, not Gale, but Necrat, you're only gonna get 2 boosts to Flatter. So the first bleeding amount is the most important one. I'm not running Oriana in this list, but if you're running Oriana, you could go up to like maybe 6 or 7 bleeding if there are a lot of vampires on the board. And all of a sudden, Flatter could get as many boosts as that. So that's really a nice interaction as well. Okay, so there's also 2 Necrats, and their power is right now 4, I guess, instead of 3. Again, if you're playing vampires, this has to be in your deck. Because, I mean, you could play this proactively and wait for a turn. And then you play your Flatter and apply bleeding and so on. So this is a pretty good engine in this deck. I talk about these bronze special cards, and there are also 2 Garcanes. This is a passive engine. It boosts itself by 1 if there's a bleeding enemy on the board. As long as there's a bleeding enemy, this is really a fine card. Not bad for provisions. And finally, this I mean, Nice Lady has been introduced, has been invited to a vampire party, although she has no relationship with vampires, but she likes to bleed. So she throws Nice and gives 2 random enemy units bleeding for 2 turns. So it's basically 4 for 6, not great, but in a vampire deck, it's pretty good. You know, you could have flatters on the board, and this lady, you know, throws their knives randomly, and you get bleeding bonus from that. So it is, you know, compatible. Well, I mean, you could play like Bruxa instead of this, or the other bonded units. Those are options. But I think Iron Falcon Knife Juggler is okay card, especially if you're on red coin. So that would so you could add Blue Mart and maybe Mushy Truffle. That's an option as well. So yeah, again, I mean, these are options, but as you see, some cards are just mandatory. You gotta put them in here. There is also a playing devotion option. I didn't talk about that. I'm playing non-devotion because I want to benefit from Oniromancy. I mean, if I can't draw my Regis, the game's over. That card is really crucial because you want Oniromancy in this deck. You could play Nagelfar, but Nagelfar isn't guaranteeing you what you draw, but that card is also really good because if you draw it, you're pretty much guaranteed to draw most of your golds because you're gonna draw a gold, and then in the beginning of next round you're gonna draw another gold. So that's really cool. And I think that's about it. And hope you enjoy the games that I'm gonna share with you. See you at the end. Blades of Glory. I don't know how this will work. One thing I know is this is useless against Flurry. I mean, Blaze of Glory, not Gret, it's Flurry. Okay, so maybe this could be helpful here. Let's get rid of this and this. Okay, so I think this is a solid play here. Sure. Yeah, it's always nice to start with that. Okay, so Flitter will be 6. Can he kill it? If he's playing Concoction, he can. No, we'll just have to try, I guess. I mean, I can use Leader, but it is kind of expensive to do that. Raiding Fleet. Okay. So I think I should just... I'm on blue coin, I don't want to... I could go just for this, but then I have to use my leader to give bleeding. So I think I have to do this. Play Crimson Curse on Alero. Wow, what a great starting hand. And he's playing Warriors. What a joke. Yeah, I'm gonna play this. Blacksmith. I can kill that. Okay. I had to use Crimson Curse, which I am not really happy about it. This is a proactive play. I mean, if I play Incubus here, I could spawn this, and I think that's a fine play. But these naked guys. What that? Okay. So my 4P card is this. Okay, I'm gonna have to use leader here. Or not. Yeah, let's use the leader. So Incubus, this is a 4 provision card. What happened there? Oh, did he just play Gyardal to kill that? What did he kill? He killed this, so he's got more Quark. Good to know. I'm gonna eat this next turn. So is there another 4 provision card? This one, but it is an engine. I'm not sure. Although I'm gonna put an engine as well. I think I'm gonna do this first. What? Why? Well, this is a 4P, but that's a 4P that I really don't want because that's a Veil. Okay, now we can eat this. Let's keep going. Okay, let's spawn Blood Moon there.
Worry not. We'll tend your ankle biters too.
Okay, so let's protoflare something. So we're trying to get the iced out, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Berserker. Please don't hit this. Are you kidding me? Really? Okay, let's kill this. Another vampire on the floor. And then, do I have a summon? Yeah, I do.
Satisfaction guaranteed. Nothing like some overseas plundering in springtime.
That is a lot of points, actually. And let's use 1 liter. And there's iced. So that was the whole plan.
Not one step. Kill the sun, steal the lassie.
And there goes leader.
May Freya choose the victor.
I am totally fine with this outcome. This can't get more quarked. We have 1 liter and this is amazing. Okay, this is probably a brick, but okay, it's really not bad actually. I think I'm gonna hold on to that. Could get something really bad here, like spores. Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to this. Okay, opponent starts with scout and looking for... Okay, he drew everything. He's running 2 scouts. Yeah, he bare not the... Yeah. I think I need to do this first and then this. He can't kill this right away though. And I'm gonna use my leader. Harold.
Up and at 'em, you lazy bastards. You'll sleep when you're dead. We fight, we plunder, full service.
Please don't die. Okay, he's gonna hit for 2 and then he needs a 3. Okay. Good. But why not try to kill this? So this is pretty good. I think I can spawn 1 more. He's got Borgwark, which won't do anything to him. Ouch. Okay, I'm not gonna get my spawn here. Oh, I will. And I think that's gonna be the difference maker here. Yeah, he's not gonna play for a lot. Okay. Perfectly executed, I guess. That wasn't easy at all. And this guy is a pretty good player, so I'm happy about that. Okay, Squirtle, but it's not the Squirtle I am scared of. But I'm on Blue Queen, so... If this was, you know, guerrilla tactics, that's really a tough matchup. It's not impossible to win, but it's pretty close. Okay. I could boost Necrat with the stratagem. Let's toss this out. Nature selection will come in handy here. I think I need one more bronze here. Toss this. Hell. Okay. Opponent could move that though. How much right?
'Tis my truth. I was born, and I shall die with it.
So let's just bleed that. Oops, we screwed up here. This is gonna die. Big time mistake. Okay, that's good. He didn't have rebuke. Actually, I should have played for operator this round. Six is fine. I really don't want this to get that big. But I may have to go for, you know, spores this round. We'll see. Nether caress. Okay, man. You insist. Okay, this time though, I mean, I'm gonna... yeah, let her grow. I don't care. Okay, 16 is big. He had rebuke and he didn't use it on this, and so instead he's going for Garcane. White. Why? What treachery is this? I think I'm gonna go for this. really don't want to play any more gold cards. I could play Wispus, but I wouldn't consider her a gold card. Kill this. Still, she's gonna get bigger. I really didn't want to use this. I hope I can draw Regis or Operator, so that I don't have to use Oniora for that. That's pretty good. Okay, no sign of Regis. How am I gonna draw him? I mean, is it too risky to do this? Okay, I know this is stupid, but I think I have to do that. So I'm risking everything here. Now the deck is getting thinner, but there is no guarantee that I'm going to draw Regis. So if he is like at the top, bottom 5 or something, I will definitely lose the game. The problem. I'm gonna have to overbleed here. This is gonna die probably. This is gonna get huge, by the way. Okay, he's going for Council, so there is no rebuke here. Look at this now. Holy crap. Let's kill that. a riot.
Chiefs live longer than humans. They need protection from them.
Now let's do this. Game is kinda getting out of hand now. I really wanted to play this earlier, but I thought he was gonna rebuke the flatter. Let's keep going. Oh, that's nice. That's a good hit. All blood and sorceress. I'm gonna heat wave that. And see what happens. I think this is a 2-0. Because these two guys will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
If I'm to die, I'll do so sword in hand.
So that's scored. So 60 probably at most. Yeah. Look at these flatters, man. It's just insane. Okay. Okay, my final game, I'm gonna do something different and gonna comment on the previous game that I played this season earlier, about a week ago. And I'm gonna pause and, you know, comment on it. I'm playing against Guerrilla Tactics, and while I was playing this game, Guerrilla Tactics was mostly using traps, and this is normally a nightmare matchup for vampires. But I mean, you're gonna see a different outcome here, so spoiler alert. So I would definitely recommend seeing this until the end. So I'm gonna first talk about the mulligans here. Let's rewind a bit then. Yeah, let's start from here. Opponent is playing the Curse Cross stratagem, so this is definitely traps. And here are my mulligan choices here. So spores will be useless here, so that's pretty much guaranteed. And in this version, I'm playing several different cards. Like, I'm not playing Heatwave, instead I'm playing Oriana here. So more long round engines, I guess, and less control. Other than that, the list is pretty much the same. Okay, so the opponent could start with Saskia, so I have to, you know, respond to that. It's good that I have the Blood Moon here. So Spores is the obvious mulligan choice, and we're getting the Regis. That's really good. So I have two Garcanes. I don't need both of them. So we got an Incubus, and Incubus is really a bad choice in the first round, but what can you do? Okay, so the opponent starts with Saskia. And immediately the 7 powered unit comes, and that's really not great for me, but you know, that unit is bleedable, so I think that's fine. So I gotta play Crimson Curse here. Against this matchup, I have to do whatever it takes to win the round. I mean, I could play until the very last card, until Regis. I mean, all of the cards are usable here. So hopefully I can make it. And then, I mean, the plan is win the round, bleed the opponent out of their traps, and try to win the final round with your Regis. So that is the plan here. Okay, so I mean, I gotta start the Blood Moon as soon as possible. I don't want a lot of units on the range row, because the plan is to kill Saskia with Blood Moon's random, bleeding effect. Unfortunately, it went to Dwarf. Playing this stratagem is, really guaranteeing your draws, but you're not getting additional 5 points from that, so that's a big minus actually. But the opponent had Saskia already in hand, so he drew something missing. Here comes Cat Witcher. So he's got to put more units on the board so that Saskia shouldn't die to bleeding. Okay, so in this stage, I need to find my operator. And put a unit that I could actually bleed. I mean, I could bleed the other units as well. But the plan is also, getting one of the flatters in the graveyard so that I can play it with my Incubus later. So after I play this, I mean, I have to play my leader, obviously, so that the flatter could go up to 7. But against this deck, 7 means nothing, because all it takes is a single rock barrage to kill that. But I mean, I played this on melee row on purpose, because I mean, at least it's not gonna die to the movement bomb. So the only thing that can kill it is rock barrage, and he has it. And that's gone. That's unfortunate, because I had to use a leader to keep that alive and kicking. So the opponent's second spawn came off from Saskia, and that is a Dried Matron, which is really dangerous because, the Cat Witcher keeps moving. Now I have to play my Flatter. I have 2 Flatters, so I mean, I want to play both of them. But before playing that, I'm gonna put Alp here. Because, I mean, if I had used Flatter there, I had to use my second leader charge, and I really didn't want to do that. So if Alp survives, I can put my second Flatter on the board. Okay, here comes another movement cut. So this is really getting dangerous here. I mean, this combination is really lethal. I mean, normally a lot of people would pass here, but I mean, if I pass, I lose. So that's certain. So I play my second Flatter and use Alp to boost the Flatter by 3. So he is 7. So unfortunately, there is another Rock Barrage in my opponent's hand. So that's dead. And the opponent's generating points. Saskia is down to 1 cooldown, so we would expect another unit to get spawned, which is really bad news. So what can I do here? There's still Blood Moon, 1 turn of Blood Moon. If you look at my options, I mean, obviously I'm not going to play Regis or Incubus, at least not yet, because the Flatter, it didn't die yet. So, I mean, I could go for Orianna, because they're bleeding units, but there are only 3 vampires on the board. So I could go for Flatter and use Leader, or I could just go for Deadlaugh here, because there are 2 vampires, so I can put him between them and produce Blood Moon for 3 more turns. I mean, I thought about putting Flatter first, but I mean, this is better. This is definitely better, playing Deadlaugh here. Okay, so 4 more turns. Another interesting thing is, we played 5 cards. I started with Blood Moon, and Saskia didn't get a single bleeding charge from Blood Moon. So it looks like the immunity is also works with RNG hits. But, I mean, I played a previous match. I mean, preceding this match, I played in that game. I mean, Saskia died in like 2 or 3 turns, so couldn't spawn anything. So sometimes RNG really likes you, sometimes hates you, and this is the unlucky situation here. And also Regis is getting some boosts every turn from bleeding. That's nice. Okay, here comes Oniro. So playing Oniro. So he probably got Oniro from the stratagem. And here comes the second Witcher. And also a leader charge to get Milva out. Kills one of the vampires in the back row so that it could go back to the deck. And had to use another leader to kill Detlef because Detlef is really dangerous there. Right now, I mean, it looks like I'm screwed. Another spawn. So there are a lot of units on the board. So the opponent is having a phenomenal time here. But as I said, if I pass, I lose. I'm going to play my Fledder and I have to use my leader. And I believe he's safe now because the opponent already played 2 Rock Barrages. And I have 2 units on the melee row. He can't use the bomb and he passes. And look at the points he's making here. And finally, Saskia got some bleeding. But I mean, having Matron and Movement Elf, I mean, at least the Movement Elf died. But, you know, there are 2 Witchers that are dancing on the board. So how am I going to make all these points here? Well, I have to use my Oriana here. That's for sure. But is Oriana going to be enough? There are only 2 vampires on the board. And I'm behind, like really behind. And I have to give bleeding this turn. So Oriana will be the play, but do I need to use leader or not? That's the question. So I really didn't have time to make all these calculations, so I just went. I mean, I thought playing leader would make more points, so that's what I'm going for. I'm getting the additional 3 points and also an additional vampire on the board. So there are 3 vampires other than Oriana, so I'm giving 3 bleeding. The Witchers dance, Matron gives them boosts, and it's enough. So did I really need to use my leaders? That's the question here, because the round ended up with an 8-point deficit. But I think I had to use it, so I mean, we could rewind and watch what would happen, but this is really complicated. I mean, there are 2 Witchers dancing on the board. I mean, some units are bleeding, and there is Blood Moon. The bleeding could go to a random unit. I think it was safer to play it this way. But the thing is, I don't have a single leader left. But am I going to use my leader? Because the opponent will not play any units anymore. Because he really did very well here. I keep drawing spores, by the way, so I'm tossing that off. And Garcane is kind of weak here. I'm going to keep both of my Incubus here, because Incubus will put units on the board, and that's what Vampire deck needs. This is my only chance to win against this deck. So that's why Operators and Incubus were key in this matchup. Okay, so I'm going to bleed my opponent and try to get as many traps as I can before I just, you know, lose this round. I don't expect to 2-0 the opponents while starting this. So start the bleed. I think Katakan is the best option here. I picked up the melee row, but it really doesn't matter because I don't expect a lot of units to stay on the board. Okay, so here comes the first trap. So playing traps is right now being verified, but I mean we suspect that anyway with the stratagem. Okay, here comes the first trap. They usually play Incinerate trap as the first trap. So if I play a you know, engine, it's gonna die because it's gonna deal 5 damage. Instead, I'm gonna play Incubus and put 2 units on the board. And while doing that, I mean, I'm gonna divide the rows. That's also nice. So there is Fledder in opponent's graveyard, so and there is Fledder on my graveyard. So as I suspected, Incubus get the 5 damage, and that's totally fine. I don't care about Incubus. He's done his job. Seduced the opponent's creature from the graveyard. I wish I had leader here, so we couldn't, you know, put bleeding on the Fledder. So that's unfortunate. And in this turn, I have to apply bleeding. How am I going to do that? And I'm going to Oneiromancy for something to get bleed from. And since this is my second charge, when you remind I gotta get something good, and I think the best option is Prot of Leather here. So Prot of Leather will put 3 bleeding on his minion Leather, and it goes up to 7. And the second trap was also Incinerating Trap, and while doing that, I mean, my regular Leather boosted up to 7, and that's really tough to deal with for the opponent right now. Because he used both of the rock barrages, he can't use the movement bomb, and before spawning another Ekimara, the opponent has to kill this. So he used the last remaining leader, and that's definitely the right call. And gets rid of Katakan before things get out of hand, and plays another trap. So we don't know what trap this is. This could be Pitfall Trap, and if I play a high provision unit, that's gonna really suck hard. This could be Serpent Trap. If it's Serpent Trap, that's great. I don't have any special lefts in my hand. And I can't play Incubus right now, because, I mean, the remaining bronze units in the graveyard are engines. So that's gonna be better for the opponent if I do that. But, I mean, I gotta keep playing here. If I pass, I lose. I mean, I could play Gale here. But if I use Gale, Gale is gonna eat that Flatter there. Okay, I mean, he's gonna go up to 8. That's really a good, point swing. But Regis will not get a boost because there won't be any units left with bleeding. So I can play Gale turn later. So I'm gonna play Incubus anyway. I mean, as you see, I changed my mind at this last minute. So I'm gonna play Incubus and put 2 units on the board. So that's really important here. I mean, Incubus is a 6 body. And definitely Cat Witcher isn't the choice here. And I also put it on melee row, so if I had played it on range row, then that Sentry would have given more points to movement units. And I picked Alp from my graveyard. I mean, Alp's not gonna give bleeding because it's a summon, but she can use the order ability next turn. So that was the plan, to boost it so that later could go up to 10 if Alp survives. And as you see, the trap didn't trigger at all. So it wasn't an Pitfall Trap. Okay, here comes Matron. This is a surprise. I really didn't expect any units remained in the deck. So I used my order ability of Alp, and then eat that Flatter in the back row. And right now things are going great. All of a sudden I'm really up by what, 25, and Regis is getting a boost, and there is a trap that wasn't triggered at all. So it looks like it's that crushing trap. I mean, the raw damage trap. So that is probably Serpent Trap. And Serpent Trap is just gonna kill this 1 power Incubus. So things are looking really good here. 3 cards remaining in the opponent's hand. It's really tough for him to get out of this round. And it looks like, I mean, even if I lose the round, I'm gonna get most of his traps. And here comes Heatwave on Flatter. So I don't think there is any way that he can use to kill my Regis, unless the opponent is playing Curse of Corruption. It doesn't look, I mean, the list doesn't look like that. I don't think he has room to put that, because, with traps and other, damage cards and so on, there is no room for Curse of Corruption. Anyhow, now it's 8:24, and I suspect that trap is Serpent Trap, so I'm gonna play my Regis. I mean, Heatwave's gone. And Regis play for a bunch of points here. And according to my calculations, this is a victory without playing the 3rd round. Gonna play Regis here and deal 3 damage to a unit here. Well, the Sentry has armor. This one is bleeding. It's pretty much the same. I mean, he could play another unit next to Matron, so I went for Matron. Maybe I lost a point there. I don't think it's that important. As I suspected, Serpent Trap is triggered. Oneiromancy. So what can he play? Okay, Eldane. Eldane is gonna, transform 3 traps. And then, as you see, Aileron comes out. So, while, I mean, I got kind of scared there after seeing Aileron because I really didn't plan for her. So this looks like a maybe feign death deck, but I don't think there's room for that. And it looks like the final card was Saber-Tooth Tiger. So me playing Calacan first had a huge impact on the game because the opponent would have definitely started with Saber-Tooth Tiger if I had played a single unit. So I played 2 units on the board, and the opponent just couldn't find any time to play the Saber-Tooth Tiger, so maybe he kind of regretted it. Because as you see right now, Saber-Tooth Tiger is just a 7. He can't deal any damage and so on, and it's just not enough. 32 to 37. So this was really a great game. I mean, I know vampires are inherently gonna lose this matchup, but in this case, I just abused my red coin, but I'm not sure abuse is a proper word for it, because the opponent was abusing the hell out of Saskia, thinning the deck and so on. So maybe he just gave up early, or maybe he had some traps in his hand, so he couldn't go on after getting all the points, or maybe he underestimated my hands. He thought that I could not catch up with a single card, but I was able to catch up and get the round, and without losing card advantage. And as you see, this is the outcome. I mean, even if the opponent wins this round, there's no way he's gonna win the third round, because as you see, there's just nothing left. What can he play after this? I mean, the Eldane is the finishing card, so he had to use, at least, he tried to catch me up, and it didn't work out. But as I said, I mean, this game happened in my stream last Wednesday, and traps were popular. Right now, Elzur decks are more popular, and I'm not sure which matchup is better. Elzur is also a bad matchup for vampires. To be honest with you, there are a lot of bad matchups for vampires, although the deck is strong. So, I mean, if you really play well, you could win some unwinnable games, I guess. And but it's a lot of fun to play this deck, so I definitely recommend playing vampires. And besides, I mean, monsters isn't particularly strong this season. The other option is Deathwish. I mean, you could go for Relics, Kelly, and maybe Wild Hunt, but I think they are weaker than these 2 options. So I think it's either Vampires or Deathwish if you want to play monsters this season. Anyway, that's all for me. Thank you for watching. So this video turned out to be, really different than what I was doing before. So, I recorded 2 games live while shooting this, and another game that has been playbacked from my archive with my comments. Hope you liked this format, and hope to see you on another Duello video. Bye bye.